Hey team, so pumped to be joined with our very own game-winning goalie formula, now turning pro goalie, Jaxson Stauber.
Walton feeds it across. Walton gets it back. Shot, save, Stauber. And they've got numbers. Kirsten Wanandanovsky, shot saved by Stauber with no reach.
And it comes to the right point for Hellison from distance, tipped toward goal, and Stauber it's in. It's a shootout win. Saved by Stauber. Here comes Casey Carew. Stauber makes the save, and Providence wins the shootout.
A little bit of background. You just finished your senior year?
Junior
year at Providence. I Googled this, but 37 games, 4 shutouts, .921 save percentage, 2.1 goals against. Does that sound in the ballpark?
Yep, that sounds right.
Sounds close. And a Richter Award semi-finalist for the second year in a row. And a Hobey Baker nominee. Not too bad. It's okay, I guess. So Jaxson, tell us where you're from. Tell us who your first favorite goalie was, although I think I maybe have an idea who it was. But give us a scoop. Tell us about wee Jaxson.
Yeah, I'm from Plymouth, Minnesota, which, if you don't know, is about 20 minutes west of Minneapolis. So, yeah, born and raised there. My favorite goalie, my first favorite goalie is actually Henrik Lundqvist. So I was a huge Rangers fan growing up. I just remember watching their playoff games. Actually, for my 10th birthday, my mom took me to a playoff game in Madison Square Garden. They lost 4-0 to the Capitals. So it was disappointing, but it was a great experience. So yeah, I'm a big King Henrik fan.
Oh man, yeah, what a great guy. What was it about him that sort of caught your eye as a youngster?
Honestly, I don't know. I just was, for some reason, I was just a Rangers fan. My mom's got a picture of me when I was like probably 4 or 5, before I even started playing hockey, in a Rangers jersey. So just something about the Rangers, I guess I was drawn to. And my dad actually played a little bit of preseason games there too. So I don't know, maybe it's a little bit of that tie as well. So I'm not sure.
Yeah. So this leads to another question. Do you think there's a better place to watch a game than Madison Square Garden, or what? Do you have sort of a favorite NHL rink?
I mean, that was an unbelievable experience. I think that's got to be the best. I've obviously been to some wild games being from Minnesota, and been to a few other rinks, not a ton, but yeah, I'd say MSG's got to be the best.
Yeah, it's so great. It's like all rinks. So I found once they kind of did the update, and maybe the tickets went up in price, it loses a little bit of that. I've been to a few games at Madison Square Garden, and some of the, Paul and I think, like, I feel so sorry for the people who brought their kids here, because like some of the New Yorkers would let it rip for sure. It's like, oh my gosh.
I think when I was first there, I was like kind of just a little bit shell shocked. Obviously, being from the Midwest, the people on the East Coast are a little bit different. So yeah, they're a little bit louder, which, you know, I've gotten used to, obviously living here now for 2 years. So it's good though. They're great people.
Oh yeah, fantastic, great fans. So when did you start full time as a goalie?
I think I was around 10 when I started full time. So I started playing hockey when I was 8, and did kind of my first year was just like everyone kind of, you know, plays goalie like once or twice. And then my first year squirts, we did like half goalie, half player I was. And then that second year is when I transitioned full time.
Do you think you always wanted to be the goalie, even when you had to split it, or?
Honestly, I don't know. I think I was just, when I was younger, I didn't really like it. When I first started to play hockey, I didn't really do it because like, oh, like my dad played or whatever. It was more like I had 2 cousins that were a year younger than me, and they were playing, and I was like, wow, like I want to play hockey now. And my mom, she was like, really? Because, you know, when I was in skating lessons when I was younger, I was doing snow angels on the ice, didn't like it. So you know, I don't know if I always like wanted to be a goalie, but somehow I just found my way there.
Was your dad all for it, or was he the dad that like, so I took him in the basement and took slappers at him so he would hopefully not want to do it?
You know, I think he was a little bit like that because he said when we were playing mini sticks one time, we used to play with like a sock ball, right? And he said that he purposely hit me in the eye, just to see like, hey, that's what it's like. And I guess I hung in there all right. So, but he always laughs because when I'd play defense, I'd be always looking over my shoulder and he goes, oh man, he's gonna be a goalie.
Yeah.
So.
Darn it. I think goalies think that the higher up you go, the easier it's going to get, you know, that, oh, if I can just make it to this team, you know, then that'll be really great. And it, with the other guys in the turning pro, it almost feels like it's never the case. Like if you're good, you get those opportunities, but it can also be a super bumpy road getting to the next opportunity. Are you willing to chat about any sort of bumps in the road that you had and sort of how you overcame them and what you felt? Because I think sometimes people look at, you know, a goalie who's performing at a really high level, who's maybe where they want to be, and thinks, oh yeah, like I want to get where that guy is because he's, you know, he just made it there. And it's like, yeah, but you maybe didn't see the times I wanted to quit or whatever. Yeah. What sort of bumps have you had that, if you've had any, maybe you're like, nope, it's been pretty smooth for me?
Yeah, no, I've had plenty of bumps in the road. You know, growing up, I was never always on the top team. In Minnesota, we do A, B1, B2, and C, and I was on a lot of the B1 teams. Didn't really make an A team until my second year Pee Wees. So it was never like, oh, like I was always on the top team or anything like that. And then come high school time, my junior year, I split time with another good goaltender who actually plays at Wisconsin, Jared Moe. So obviously in high school too, like in Minnesota, it's only 25 games. So you play what, 12 or 13 if you're splitting time, which is not a lot. So going into my senior year, I actually went and played U18 out in Michigan for Victory Honda, which was a great experience. Got to play a lot of games there. Yeah, it was awesome. And then ended up being drafted in the USHL by Sioux Falls. In my first year, I was a backup, so I didn't really play very much. My second year was, you know, hopefully was looking forward to taking that starting role, and, you know, had some trouble kind of getting some traction early in the year. So ended up splitting time again. Then they brought in another goalie who was playing very, very well. And then so I was kind of relegated back to the back burner again at the end of that second year. And right before the playoffs, the second to last weekend, he gets hurt, pulls his ankle, high ankle sprain. And, you know, I was fortunate enough to have an opportunity to kind of take us to the playoffs, and we ended up winning the Clark Cup, our league championship, which was an incredible experience. Great group of guys. Yeah, so that was obviously tough when I wasn't playing, but just had to keep, you know, working hard and focus on the things that I could control and just be ready for when that opportunity came. I'd say that was the biggest experience for me. But then going to college, I started my freshman year at Minnesota State Mankato, and obviously I went in Dryden McKay, who's obviously a very great goalie as well. You know, he was coming off a really great freshman year, and first 10 games, you know, I'd only played one, and, you know, he was playing really well, and I could see that, you know, I probably wasn't going to get very much playing time the rest of that year, and I still had a year left of junior. So I went back to Sioux Falls, and then was fortunate to end up at Providence, where, you know, I've been lucky enough to play a lot of games over the past 2 seasons. So grateful to have that opportunity here at Providence.
Yeah. I think actually when you went back to Sioux Falls, you bumped one of your turning pro compatriots.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that in my first interview.
Yeah, did I? Yeah. I don't hold a grudge. You might get a couple extra shuttle runs. Is there something you've learned that kind of has nothing to do with the nuts and bolts of stopping the puck, but that's helped you be a better goalie or make the most of opportunities that you've had?
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of things. Obviously my dad was a goalie too, and he's just been such a great resource for me. Obviously, he's been through it, so he knows the highs and lows. But so many things I think with goaltending and hockey can just translate to life too. So always trying to stay in the moment, not look too far ahead. I think that's huge, just to be where your feet are. And to just focus on today and what you can do today to get yourself better, in any way possible, whether it's academics, hockey, relationships, anything like that. I think that's probably the biggest thing that I strive to do, is just to stay in the moment. And yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think you're so right that there's so many life lessons in goaltending, that a lot of these mindsets and these skills you develop that you need to be a successful goaltender just help you with everything. So
Absolutely,
it's incredible that way. You are playing D1 hockey, you have team workouts, you have school. I'm assuming you have a social life, some few friends or whatever. But we talked about this before we started recording. I'm so impressed all along how you're just like clockwork with your workouts. And I know that lots of us struggle with time and how do I find the time and make the time. I know so let's just start there. Like, how did you get it all in? What was your approach to that?
Like during the school year, obviously with practice and lifting, like that stuff is slotted in for you. So you kind of work your schedule around that. So I would say like obviously it's a lot with school and hockey, but it's not too tough. But I think like some of the smaller things, you just gotta try to make time for them. If it's something that's really important to you, you'll find the time to do it. And like as far as like training in the summer, that's the first thing I do when I wake up is I go work out, make sure I'm getting that stuff taken care of, and then whatever time I have left of the day, to do whatever I want. But I think like my mentality is always like I've wanted to play professional, so it's something that I put a high priority on, is making sure I'm taking care of myself, getting the workouts in, recovery, nutrition, all that stuff. So I just think if it's something that's important to you, you're going to make it a priority.
Yeah. Do you think sort of having that mapped out to like, this is what I'm doing on this day and that day, that then, like to me, it's like, okay, that decision's made. I don't have to wake up in the morning and be like, oh, what am I going to do today? Like, do you think is that helpful?
Yeah, absolutely. Planning out your weeks or your days. So like what you're going to do on each day, and then you can't just throw it to the side, because you've already kind of made that commitment to it. And then after, like, something that I do is I kind of keep like a journal log of what I did each day. So checking those boxes and kind of then having like my weekly totals, I guess, for each thing that, or I guess goal that I wanted to achieve for that week or that day. So kind of keeping yourself on track, I think that helps to hold yourself accountable.
Yeah. Do you find that, and everybody's different, so I'm really interested just in your perspective, that I feel like there's so many things that we can do, and sometimes it gets a little bit congested. It's like, well, I'm going to do my off ice training, then I'm going to do my visual training, then I'm going to do my hand-eye training, then I'm going to do my, like it feels like there's so many boxes to be checked. Do you have some of those things that it's like, no, but because these have tremendous value, so I make the time to do them? Or are you sort of a let's move the big rocks kind of guy?
No, yeah, I'm definitely like, I have A, B, C, D, E. Like that's actually something that I was looking at, like kind of after every season, I plan out a little bit like, hey, what I want to do, like kind of like what you're talking about, those extra kind of things that maybe aren't like the big rocks. And yeah, sometimes it definitely can be a little overwhelming and stressful, like because there is so much, right? There's so many different ways to get better, and you don't want to overdo it, because overtraining, like you're just going to get burnt out. You don't want to be spending 12 hours a day working out and doing your vision. Like it's just, that's too much. So finding, I think, doing some of those smaller things, maybe just a couple times a week instead of like every single day, or I think that's a great way to kind of hit those boxes without overdoing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, it does make sense. I remember like not this past World Juniors, but maybe the one before, and they were talking, you watch TSN and they're saying, oh, and Devin Levi, he's got a 3-hour pre-game warm-up routine. And I'm just thinking like, oh my God, like now everybody's going to want a 3-hour, like this very complex and convoluted. And it's like,
Yeah,
man, I want a Navy SEAL goalie who's just like, just drop me off and I'm ready to go kind of thing.
yeah,
Like, like that mentality. Cause it's like, well, what happens if the bus breaks down and, you get there 30 minutes ahead? Like what, you're going to be.
yeah. That'll happen to you in junior hockey a few times. The bus will be late.
Yeah. Yeah. And a guy that the bus was late or something. And he's like, forget what he even said. So then I dry scooped my pre-workout or something like right before the game. And I'm like, dry scoop? Like, do you mean you just took a scoop and like put it down your gullet? He's like, yeah. And he was like, I don't know what was in it. Like, but he's like, he was so like, it must have had caffeine in it or something. And he's like, I was so,
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, don't do that. Don't have. Just
Yeah. Well, that's something that's interesting because like I'm very like game day, like I like to be structured to like, have enough time to do all my stuff. But I think last year with COVID, everything was changing. Like we didn't even know who our opponents were. It was on a week-to-week basis. Game times were always changing. So that was something where like I just learned to adapt. I was like, I know there's so much that I am not going to be able to control, like pregame meal, bus is probably going to be late a handful of times. And so I think that experience really helped me just to kind of let some of that go. And just like you said, like you're here, you're at the game, just find a way to play good. Like at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
Yeah. Yeah. As my dad used to say, you never know when you're being lucky. And it always made me mad when he said it, because it would be some bad, like disappointing thing or whatever. But again, we look for silver linings with that COVID thing. That's a pretty incredible skill to develop too, and just be like, okay, I can manage whatever.
Yeah.
When I first interviewed you for this program, I think the number one thing was working on your speed so that you could play with a little bit more patience. How did we do? And you can tell, and be honest, don't.
Yeah, no, really good. I think this year it's something that I'm always trying to work on, but I definitely noticed difference of me being able to hold my edges longer and take shots on my feet. Obviously, I want to get to spots on my feet, don't want to be sliding around as little as possible. So yeah, I think that was definitely something that improved in my game from last year to this year.
Any other big improvements on the ice that you noticed?
Yeah, I think I told you this maybe a couple of weeks ago, but I increased my butterfly flare. So I was able to take up a little bit more coverage, and I was sitting up a lot taller in my butterfly too. So I was able to kind of maybe fight some of those high ones off as well. So yeah, those were two kind of areas that, I think doing the summer training last year really helped.
Yeah. Yeah. Were you ever like a when you were younger, like kind of, I'm going to go to the gym and just try to get as strong as I can kind of guy?
Not really. I mean, having my dad, like, I think his old school method though, like, you do your squats and your hip sled. It wasn't just get as strong as you can, but like some of those basic like exercises like that. Like I definitely did some of that, like as I got maybe like into my teenage years. And obviously he's coming from like the 80s. So they worked out in a different style back then, but yeah, not really like just get as strong as I can, because I've always been on the leaner side. So that was something that like it was always hard for me to put on weight and keep on weight. So yeah.
I should post in our coaching group some of the workouts. I trained Jeff Hackett was the first NHL goalie I ever trained, and he was a goalie from Montreal when I started with him, and then he went to a few other teams. But yeah, I'll show you. That would have been like in the in the early 90s. Like the butterfly was sort of this new thing, this new technique. I should post some
Yeah.
of the workouts I designed for him. It's like, woo. Yeah, we'd be doing like 3 sets of 12 back squats and like,
Yeah.
You are heading to Rockford here in the next few days to sort of get started in your as part of the Chicago Blackhawks organization, and so that I'm guessing there's excitement and nerves, but it's like, what do you sort of, what's your self chatter? What are you telling yourself to kind of help?
Yeah, honestly, I'm more excited than nervous. I think maybe, once I step on the ice for the first time, there'll be a few nerves, but I think the biggest thing is just like the game, like they play the same game, right? It's the same rules, well, for the most part, I guess, but there's not 2 pucks out there. There's not more guys. Like it's the same game I played my whole life, and I know what to do. So if I just go out there and kind of play my game, like I'll be just fine.
Yeah. I love it though. Like I love that approach because it's just the same all the time. And even in the coaching group, sometimes they say, so I have to go out and really give it my all and really focus my best. And it's like, no, like you just have to go out and be the best goalie you are, go out and do what you do, really, really well. And what do you think is the most underrated skill or technique that a goalie can use to stop more pucks?
Their stick. I think obviously like what you said, in the 90s they started using the butterfly, so I think a lot of times people started using their pads for shots on the ice versus their stick, and that's something that growing up my dad has always harped on. I still think I can get a lot better. I mean, you throw a stick in his hand and shoot it on the ice, he'll get his stick on every single puck every time, and I think that's something that a lot of goalies don't utilize enough, and even in and around the net, maybe poking pucks away, corralling them in. So yeah, even playing the puck, stopping it behind the net, giving your team outlet passes. I just think the stick in general is something that very underutilized.
Yeah, that's cool. That's actually cool to hear. Do you have a favorite book that's helped you as a goalie? A book on any topic that's helped you as a goalie?
Favorite book? I do. I read a decent amount, I think. My favorite book. Okay, I can't think of it now, but
We can come back.
I'm reading one right now, actually. Right here. It's called Be Where Your Feet Are.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so it's written by Scott O'Neill, who is he is the CEO of the Philadelphia 76ers and the New Jersey Devils.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of what I alluded to earlier about being in the moment, kind of being present. He talks about he's got a very busy lifestyle, obviously, managing, those high professional sports teams. And so when he's at work, he's fully engaged in that. But when he's at home with his family, like he's fully engaged in that. So yeah, I'm reading that right now. So yeah, it's a good read.
Yeah,
But
that's cool.
favorite book, I can't think of that one.
No, that's good. That's awesome. That's helpful. We're gonna do a little rapid fire. Are you ready?
Okay, yeah.
Your favorite non-hockey athlete?
Jordan Spieth.
Earbuds or over-the-ear headphones?
Earbuds.
Your pump up jam?
Till I Collapse by Eminem.
Nice. Pineapple on pizza or no?
No.
Cowling or no cowling?
No cowling.
Olympic gold or Stanley Cup?
Stanley Cup.
What would be your Hogwarts house?
Gryffindor.
Obviously, duh. If you said Hufflepuff, I would have you would have been cut from the squad. Did you make your bed this morning?
Yep.
Attaboy. That's it. Hey, okay. Jaxson, thanks for letting everybody get to know you a little bit better. And yeah, I'm pumped for our off season coming up. It's yeah. I was gonna say it's gonna be a huge one, but it's gonna be, it's gonna be the next stepping stone. So I'm excited for that. Thanks so much. Anything else? Any other words of wisdom you want to share?
No, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Talk to you later.